What up? What up? Welcome into another episode of Profit Picks. If you are new, we always start this show by being transparent. And yesterday was a pretty solid day for me. Went 6-2 overall. The two losers were Diggs over his receiving yards and Austin Reeves over his points, rebounds, and assists. But other than that, pretty much everything we talked about that we locked in went well. So profitable day. We'll try to keep that rolling here. Veno, how you doing today? How did yesterday treat you?
I'm good today, buddy. Yesterday was a split. We talked about NBA on the show. That's where my two plays came from. The good, Milwaukee, Philadelphia over the total. That +6 got there, Skee. But we had over 227. That came through nicely. And, of course, I did the unthinkable and trusted the Lakers first half -3. And I got that 18-point first quarter, and I was cursing the LA Lakers. But that was the split. Had the over winner with Milwaukee and Philadelphia full game, and had the loss with Lakers first half.
It's all good. I know you're up on this year. You had that 3-0 to start, and
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling.
You got it.
I see in the chat they're saying it was a good day yesterday, so they enjoyed it as well. Matt says he enjoyed watching Bucks Sixers cashing Giannis rebounds and the over. Everything was all good. And I'm gonna apologize now because I have some plumbing stuff going on. So if you hear noise in the background, that's what it is. You just gotta excuse me. And also, some people working on stuff next door. So it is what it is. Can control what I can control, and we'll try to find ways to make all of us, not just you guys. We're betting this shit too. Make us all some money. So, Rob, we have a college football game. We have World Series game 1. We have a full NBA slate. I figure we start in college football, and let's just go there right off the bat. We have FAU at Charlotte. This game opened FAU -5.5. They're now -3.5. Total open 42, and we're looking at 44.5. These look like. I want to say they're two teams who are more under teams than over teams. So for me to see the total going up, just gives me a little bit of pause or caution. Do you agree with it moving that way, or would you be looking more towards a lower scoring under game?
Well, I'll start by saying, as of right now, I don't have a play either way, side or total, but I'll break it down this way. Charlotte is the reason why the total's low, not necessarily FAU. FAU's played some pretty good defenses along the way, which drags their point production average for the season, drags it down. When you've played Clemson, when you've played Illinois, when you've played UTSA, who's back to being UTSA once again, it's going to skew the numbers a little bit. Daniel Richardson, the quarterback for FAU, formerly of Central Michigan, plenty of experience. Obviously, they lost Casey Thompson. You guys in the chat will remember him from Texas, and then Nebraska, got hurt about 5 weeks ago. Richardson's been there ever since. Very competent. And against South Florida, we saw it, right? FAU went for 56 points. So when they get lesser opposition, Skee, they're very, very capable. Charlotte, much more of the let's go real slow because we're not that good. Try and hang around, be in the game in the fourth quarter, low scoring, and maybe we can steal one. I don't know that works here against FAU, but obviously the money does because the money's come in towards Charlotte. At this price tag, I'd probably favor FAU, a team with bowl aspirations. Remember, the coach here, guys, is Tom Herman, former head coach at Houston, offensive guru, getting his fingerprints on this team now. As the season's going on, I've seen him get better. If I had to play, because FAU needs this in order to get bowl eligible, I think they have 3 wins now. They're going to have to run off 3 more in their last 5 games, to make it to a bowl game. So it's important to win these games where you're favored. Very slight leans here toward FAU. I think they're the better team. I don't think Charlotte just trying to, let's say, playing not to lose, right? They're not really playing to win with their offense. They're playing not to lose. And I think FAU's side, total at 44.5 is probably questionable at this point, Skee. 24-20 loses if you have over. So I think that's probably a reasonable score here. I would stick with my lean toward FAU at this price.
All right, fair enough. You're more knowledgeable about these teams than I am. I just have a feeling like when I see these on the docket, I forget if it's FAU or Charlotte, but I see totals like in the 30s. Am I mistaken? Or is that
It's Charlotte. It's
okay?
definitely Charlotte. They're the reason for it. The other team's got some capability, but the game will probably be low possession. One team has way more scoring ability than the other does.
Fair enough. Well, Rob leaning towards the FAU side. I'm not even going to say it's, I mean, it is a lean, but I'm not playing anything. I don't know very much about this. Just a very simple handicap for me. So that's the college football for today. We'll move over to MLB World Series Game One, and I do have a little bit more of an opinion when we get to baseball. I started off really hot in MLB playoffs. I lost four in that last game, I think, or in game six. I didn't play game seven. So I'm now 25-17 in MLB. And I want to get back on track because I was doing really, really good, like above, like high 60%. So I want to get back to that. This game opened, and my bad. Uh, this is where I got to get it together, Rob. We got to fire the department. There we go. There we go. D-backs and Rangers. My apologies. Gallon and Eovaldi. This one open 8.5 is the total. Looks like we still see 8.5s there. Um, you won Texas. They're about a minus 150 to minus 160 favorite. Arizona is as low as plus 135. So when I look at both of these pitchers, I mean, I know Gallon is much better at home than on the road. So that gives me a little bit of pause with the Arizona side. But I still, even though he hasn't been great, I still want to try to trust Gallon here. And when I look at the flip side, let me put numbers to it. So on the season, they both have around a mid three ERA. The last three starts, Gallon 6.06 ERA, Eovaldi 2.79. So Eovaldi's a guy who down the stretch of this regular season, I feel like he was getting lit up. Maybe it was he came off an injury or something like that. And then he's kind of looked locked in and a lot better since the playoffs have started. So I think, he can keep that going here in this game. And how I feel about there's a lot of ways I feel about this game. I'm just gonna lump it all together. How I feel about this Texas team is their bullpen is not good. Like you can't afford for the starting pitcher to come out early and expect for them to hold it together through the middle part of the game. I feel like if Eovaldi's been this good in the playoffs, they're gonna expect for him to throw a long start here. And even though I'm not the big Eovaldi guy, my eyes lately tell me he's been doing all right. So I'm gonna trust him. I think he can throw 6 or 7 innings before he gets, touched a little bit. I am expecting Gallon to give up like one or two in the first five. So I do still lean first five under, but I think even if Gallon gets touched like a couple runs early, um, like the middle part of the D-backs bullpen, I trust them. Like during the season, they weren't good, but in the playoffs lately, they've been lights out. So that makes me think that I can get there with the full game under. Um, I see it's at 8.5 now. I took the 8 at plus 100, so even money. And I really see this as like a 2-1, 3-2 game. That's just kind of how I see it. Maybe Texas takes the lead first. Arizona comes back once either Eovaldi gets tired or the bullpen comes in. So I'm on the under 8, and I also played D-backs. I think it was about plus 150 at the time when I played it. So, Rob, how do you feel about those two plays? And can you also talk me into a first five under? What are you thinking here?
I like that first five under Skee. I actually played it 4.5. I think you probably get a little, two teams that aren't necessarily used to being here, right? It's been a minute since Texas was here, 2011. None of these guys. Corey Seager would be your guy on Texas with World Series experience. For the Arizona side, you're talking about Evan Longoria, World Series experience, and that's probably it. Um, and so maybe you get some jitters early on. Both of these teams, personality wise, are pretty loose, but when first pitch comes, we'll see. I agree with a ton of what you said. What slows me down a bit is Zach Gallen on the road. However, I kind of feel like there'll be a bounce back here. The Phillies lineup owned him. The poor numbers you read off are because Philadelphia bashed him around twice, and Philadelphia just found his fastball to their liking. This side might as well, but I still think that Gallen, who pitched against this team on the 22nd of August, granted it was at home, and we've already laid out the difference between Gallen at home and Gallen on the road, but he struck out 11 guys in that game, Skee, and only gave up 1 run. And if you look at the lineup for that day, Texas had all their players in. So this lineup he's already seen. He definitely dominated this lineup, although it was at home. I think he can throw better here. The hope is that Zach Gallen doesn't become Clayton Kershaw, right? A guy who throws up these great regular season numbers, then hits the playoffs and can't get anybody out. But I think that'll change here. And then if you just, Eovaldi, you have to trust his postseason history. One of the best postseason pitchers we've seen in quite some time. Every time he takes the hill in a playoff or World Series game, he does the job. So I think early on, as long as these pitchers are locked in, I think the offenses will have a little more difficult time. So I am on under 4.5. And it's interesting what you said about the Diamondback bullpen. I mean, that's got to be one of the world's great mysteries. How does Arizona's bullpen stink for 162 games and then enter the playoffs and just shut everybody down? It's unbelievable, but it's happening. Kevin Ginkel, really good. Ryan Thompson, really good. Paul Sewald at the end, very good. Texas didn't win a home game in the last series, right? Houston beat them every time at home. Texas won every game on the road. Arizona's been a little bit of a mix. I think first game, a little bit of jitters. We don't have cold weather to consider here because these games are going to be played climate controlled. I'm going to try it, Skee. In fact, I already have tried it, under 4.5, first 5 in this game.
I think I can get there with that too. I already like the under. I took the full game at plus money, even though there's 8.5 at minus 115 or whatever. First 5, 4.5. Even if Gallen gives up a couple, I feel like that's still a solid play. And Joey says, Rob, don't tell Skee that he hates Eovaldi. I do. And I put some respect on his name and started the show. I let him know I don't like this guy, but I can't ignore what he's been doing lately in the playoffs. So I'm expecting him to pitch well today. So first 5 under 4.5 for you, Rob. Let me just ask this. Is there, in the game 1 of the World Series, do you think that, like, even if Gallen gets hit a little bit, they're going to leave him out there because they want to save their relievers as long as they can? Or do you think that they'll snatch him and try to steal his first game?
I think he's a guy that gets the leash a little bit longer, Skee, because he is Zach Gallen, because he is a Cy Young candidate, probably one of the top 5 pitchers in the National League this year. So I think Lovullo will give him a chance to redeem himself for what happened in Philadelphia. But it won't go too long. You see how these playoffs work nowadays, right? You know as well as anybody, these managers are not shy about taking pitchers out in the 4th or 5th inning, and the way Arizona has produced out of the bullpen. But you're right. You don't want to burn your bullpen immediately to start a series. Let me ask you, any feeling on the series price? Because I feel like I want to take Arizona plus price to win the series just because it's a decent size plus price, and I feel like they got a decent chance.
I personally don't bet I don't bet baseball futures at all, so I haven't even looked at the series price. But what is it?
They are series-wise. Oh, I just had it up. Hang on. Give me 1 second here. Guys watching it, I'll tell you, they're plus $1.45 in that range to win the series.
Well, I'll put it like this. When you're betting on a team to win the first game of a series, or when you're betting on them to win the series, you're betting on them to win the first game. So I'm already betting on them to win the first game. I think that correlates with, expecting them to win a series. And you look at the season, they took 3 out of 4 games, right? So they can compete with this team, and that's even when they weren't pitching their best. So I think they're very live, and I couldn't talk you off of Dbacks series price here.
If anybody, real quick, if anybody out there has a number, I know in basketball playoff, Skee, we often can make plays on teams plus 1.5 games or plus 2.5 games or whatever. I gave it a pretty good search, and I didn't see those numbers. So if anybody in the chat out there has numbers on maybe like Arizona plus 1.5 games, plus 2.5 games, just drop it in there and let us know. I only saw a full series price on this one.
Yeah, hearing you talk about the D-backs, it's similar to Miami Heat, right? Last year they looked terrible all year and get to the playoffs and it's a whole different story. So we've seen it a little bit before, maybe in a different sport, but I think the D-backs are definitely live. I think this one can end a little different than the NBA ended. I think they can finish it off. Greg, he says he likes Eovaldi over 15 and a half outs. I don't do a whole lot of outs props, but just doing math, what does that make for him to get to 6 innings?
5 1/3.
Yeah, so I have him going 6 or 7. So I like this bet. I would definitely like they cannot afford to take him out in the 5th inning and try to pitch to put together the middle part of the you call it the bullpen or whatever. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Even if I don't say the correct terms, I know what I'm talking about. I
And they
watched
do
the game.
stink, Skee. You're right. That bullpen for Texas, I mean, you watch Aroldis Chapman come out there and start a fire almost every time he's on the hill. If it weren't for Leclerc, there wouldn't be a heck of a lot in that pen right now.
Yeah. It makes me nervous, Rob. When I heard you say I was gonna add the first 5 under 4.5, but when you say you expect him to give Gallon a little longer of a leash, like that makes me nervous because I'm unsure if he can pitch well or not. I trust everybody behind him. If you tell me he's gonna leave him out there, I might want to wait till he comes out till I start to get involved. And if that's the case, then my Arizona bet is not good. So I don't know. We'll see. I might end up with the 4.5 bet by the end of the day, but as of right now, just the under 8 at even money and D-backs plus 150. Boofer says he's late to the party. So are the likes. Smash the like button plus 1.5 times. I appreciate you, Boofer. If you guys do enjoy the show, it helps us out if you guys can hit the like button. Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, did Boofer have yellow today? I don't know what the odds were on yellow this afternoon, but that's what you got, Boofer.
Yeah, he didn't get any bet in today. We'll see what he could do next time or next week. Jerry O says Porzingis 3+3s in the win plus 160. We'll get to NBA. Saturated asking, do we like either starting pitcher K prop? I'm gonna be real. I don't look at a whole lot of K props unless the prop queen points it out to me. So she didn't point anything out to me today. I'm not particularly looking at strikeouts. And Greg says D-back plus 1.5 is minus 150.
That's steep. I'd rather just win the series, I think.
Minus 145 on DraftKings, minus 140 at Circa. So you said you'd rather just take the plus price, right?
Yeah, I'd rather just play the series instead of taking the plus one. That's a big swing, Skee, right? It's from plus 45 to minus 45. That's a 90-cent swing to, basically pick up a game. I don't know. I'd rather take my shot with Arizona to get the whole thing done without any help of plus 1.5. Real quick to saturated. If you are looking at strikeout props, I mentioned earlier, Gallon struck out 11 of these guys first time around. So I don't know what the number is because I don't do a lot of strikeout props either. But depending upon what it is, maybe Zach Gallen is worth somewhat of a look. Maybe he does have something on this lineup other than Corey Seager, who used to play for the Dodgers. There's not a lot of guys that have seen Zach Gallen pitch. Texas and Arizona don't really cross paths. Skee already mentioned they only play, 3-1 the series this year, so 4 games. Don't see these pitchers a lot.
Dom, if you were not listening, he says, so what first fives are y'all leaning? Rob gave a whole breakdown and said he likes the first 5 under. And I like the full game under and the D-back. So that's the MLB card. One game, World Series game 1. We'll see how it shakes out, and we'll keep it moving. So I feel like we save football for last just because we do football a little different. We just kind of talk about what's standing out to us rather than go through each and every game. So we do go through each and every NBA game. Let's start there. First game on the docket is 5:33, 5:34. Detroit Pistons heading into Charlotte to take on the Hornets. This game opened Hornets -4. Still sitting at -4 pretty much everywhere. Total open 225.5. We're looking at 226 across the board. Injury report for Detroit. They'll still be without Bogdanovich, Isaiah Livers, and Monte Morris. For Charlotte, same people who were out last game look like they're going to be out here again. Miles Bridges, uh, Frank, I always mess his name up. Nidakina, I can't really say it. Cody Martin, Book Knight, McGowan's. Charlotte surprised some people. They surprised me in the first game, getting that win versus Atlanta. They do have a new coach over there. Maybe they're playing a little bit better for him. But Detroit has a new coach too, and they look a lot more competent than previous years under Monty Williams. So I'm not a big fan. And if you guys been following me over the past few years, when I see Charlotte minus, I'm more likely looking to run the other way. I just don't think this is a team. Like, they're not a team who's going to get a whole lot of stops. And if you can't stop anybody, how do I expect you to win by any kind of margin? So I will be looking towards Detroit plus the points. Um, I didn't keep track of Jalen Duren rebound that we talked about in that last game because I didn't play it. But maybe also look at that again. Only two ways that I think I could play this game. How do you feel about Pistons at the Hornets, Rob?
Yeah, Duran. Now that you mentioned him, Ski, it's in the pivot tonight. It's him against Mark Williams, the Duke center before Derek Lively was last year. 15 rebounds first time out for Mark Williams, 14 rebounds for Jalen Duran. Two of the better defensive centers and rebounding centers for young guys in the league. That crop a couple of years ago, not this past draft, but the draft before that these guys came from, did produce a lot of good defensive centers. Walker Kessler comes to mind for Utah. So that's a good matchup. I told you guys the other day, I'm a fan of Detroit this year. Cade on a mission. I just saw that flash up here, and that's true. 30 points the other night against Miami. Looked good as ever in that game. I like what Detroit brings to the table, not only as an energy type team. I think I talked about this the other day, maybe on the Wager Talk show. Um, but depth wise, I just think they're a little stronger on the bench than is Charlotte and Skee. I like your point about if you can't get stops, you probably shouldn't be laying points. And these two teams are so comparable. And I think both of these teams, off of a win, their first game, will be ultra excited. I think the energy level is going to be there on both. But I do think Detroit has the better roster. I think +4 is worth taking here. Every strength that Charlotte has, I think, is negated by Detroit. So if I had to play here, I'd be on Detroit +4. Can't see any way I'd be on Charlotte.
Well, we line up there. Only way to play this game, and they say, yeah, Duran definitely got his double double in that last game. So we talked about that. That did hit, and they're looking at his rebounds again tonight or his PRA. I'd probably just go rebounds, but I did not see the number. I have to apologize. Had a lot going on, and I woke up late this morning. I'd assume they moved it up from 8.5 to 9.5, and I would still be taking that over for Duran. So um, those are two ways we can look to play that game. Let's keep going here. Next game up on the slate, we have 5:35, 5:36. Denver Nuggets heading into Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. Opened up Nuggets -3.5. Looking like a consensus is five. A consensus of 5.5, but there is a 6 even out there at Caesars. Total open 225.5, and this one has seen major movement. It's down as low as 220.5. Injury report: Kankar and Jay Huff out for the Nuggets. Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, John Morant, and of course Steven Adams, all unavailable for this Memphis Grizzlies team. Pelicans took care of business versus that Grizzlies team like I expected, and I don't think this Grizzlies team is going to be a whole lot of good this year. I mean, they even lost their backup Tyus Jones, who was holding things together whenever John Morant was out. It's just I don't see very much to like from this team going up against the Nuggets, who I mean, I don't even think I got to say too much about how dominant the Nuggets are, and I believe the length for them is really going to bother the Grizzlies tonight. And if like who's guarding Jokic tonight? Jaren Jackson Jr., that man will be fouled out in 2 quarters. I can only look towards the Nuggets way. It's no way that I can get there with the Grizzlies. And I want to say this is also a game where I'm gonna double check after I pass it to Rob. The Nuggets, believe they have more rest. I have it right here. Yeah, the Nuggets, they got more rest than their opponent, and they got more rest after this game. The Grizzlies are on the front end of a back to back. So if they start to get, whooped on, I think they could let the rope go and save some energy for that next game. So I'm liking the Nuggets here. I really would prefer for them just to win, but it's the only way I could look. What do you think here, Nuggets Grizzlies?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Ski, on the general overview that Memphis is not a team I want to be near early season. We'll see if they progress at all, but I'm not sure that they will. The center on this team is Xavier Tillman, right? So maybe Jaren Jackson does end up on Jokic. Either way, they really don't have an answer for him in this particular contest. So if you're looking at Jokic props, probably worth it. The bench for Memphis. Let's go back to Tyus Jones because you made a great point. Remember the record that Memphis posted when Ja Morant wasn't playing? That's because of Tyus Jones. And now it's Marcus Smart trying to work his way, integrate into a new team. I don't think Marcus Smart really appreciated being traded to Memphis, to tell you the truth, all the drama that goes with them. I don't think he needs that. But he's not the same type of point guard that either of those guys are, Morant and Jones. So I think it's going to take time there. And again, the bench, from what I'm seeing or what I saw in the box score the other night, the backup point is Derrick Rose. Your other reserves here that got significant minutes are David Roddy, the kid from Colorado State, hustle player, but certainly not outstanding. Luke Kennard and Jake LaRavia. I mean, that's your bench. That's who played the other night. I'm not sure that lines up at all well with what Denver brings to the table. As you mentioned, a lot of rest here for the Nuggets. So for me, it would have to be Nuggets or nothing. And I do think that going back to your original point about Jokic, I know his numbers are high, guys, and I'm going to get myself out of the prop market this year because I got way too over involved in NBA stuff last year. Sides, totals, first quarter, third quarter, player props. It just became too much. But if you're liking Jokic props out there, I could see any number of ways you could go with him tonight.
I agree with that. Um, Guys in the chat saying looking at Michael Porter Jr. rebounds. Also, Murray over 2.5 threes they're looking at. Satrick is asking why is the line moving towards Memphis? I don't see it moving towards Memphis. It opened 2.5 or 3.5, and it's up to as high as 6. So it's moving towards the Nuggets. Hooper says he hopped on the Nuggets first quarter, first half. Um, he says stop the first quarter, first half, third quarter slander, Veno.
Listen, I don't mean to slander it. I just mean it wasn't working for me. It was way too much to comprehend that it got me into a little bit of trouble. And we do, let me just say this real quick, Skee, we appreciate all the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter numbers that are pointed out by the chat room here, because that's what initially got me, aware of what goes on in first quarters and stuff. And I'm going to say to Boofer and to the rest of the chat, if you want to look at something, I talked about the Memphis bench real quick. And generally the bench starts off the second quarter, right? Memphis got outscored 32-19 in the second quarter by New Orleans the other night. So maybe second quarter fading Memphis is something we can look at. Just keep an eye on it. Of the few things maybe that I'll look at in prop market would be fading Memphis second quarter here with that bench. It just doesn't look good to me.
I'm with you on that. So we'd only look towards the Nuggets here, and Boofer is looking towards all the quarters. Let's keep it going down the list. Next game up, we'll go 537, 538. OKC Thunder heading into Cleveland to take on the Cavaliers. This game opened Cavs -4.5. We're looking at -4 across the board. Total open 226.5. Consensus number is 228. So a little bit of movement up towards the over. Let's take a look at the injury report for OKC. Kenrick Williams, Jalen Williams, both out again. For Cleveland, Darius Garland once again makes the injury report. He's a true game time decision this time. Dean Wade, also game time decision. They'll be without Jared Allen, without Ricky Rubio. And I know they barely squeaked away a win in that last game, right? I got the cover though with the Nets plus the 2.5. but I'm just not a believer in backing this Cavs team, especially laying points without Jared Allen out there on the floor. He's the guy who does a lot of the rebounding. The guy is gonna make up for a lot of lack of defense. I guess I'd just say it like that, and protecting the rim. So without him out there, I just don't really love him. OKC came out the gate swinging, killed the Bulls. I think OKC can keep this one competitive and even win the game. So I would only look towards them plus the points. I don't think they have anybody who's going to stop SGA. I might even just bet his points prop. Um, Only OKC or SGA. How do you feel about this one, Rob?
I like the only OKC part of it, Skee. Again, a team that, when we talked a little bit in Las Vegas, when I was out there recently, I'd mentioned to you that Detroit and OKC were a couple of teams that I thought were worth backing consistently here this season. I'm not going to back down from that. Oklahoma City is so deep. Oh my God, they just keep running. In the NBA nowadays, wings are really important. And it seems like all these Oklahoma City guys look alike. Just march them in and out and in and out. They're all young. And they're probably going to pester Donovan Mitchell a little bit more than he'd appreciate here tonight, because they do come at you in waves. I think Cleveland, when you looked at them the other night, have a little different look without Jared Allen. They have a little different look with the acquisitions. Max Strus was 7 of 13 from 3 the other night. I don't know if he can do that every game, but to me, looking at Cleveland, they looked a little more offensive oriented than defensive oriented, which is, when we have Allen and Mobley next to each other, we kind of look at them that way as Twin Towers. From that perspective, I might look a little bit toward the over, but I really think Oklahoma City's not fazed by anything on the road anymore, Skis. So this road stuff with them, I don't think exists. I think they're a real team and maybe a top 5, top 6 team in the West this year. So I would be on them if I were on the game. And I'd also give the over a little bit of a look. That Brooklyn game the other night hit 227 with Cleveland. OKC shot it well from 3 and totally kind of shut the Bulls down with their defense. So those are the ways I would look.
I agree. I feel like Cavs were kind of pushing the pace a little bit more, and I could see OKC running in this game right with them. So leans for us, the over OKC side, ways that we would look. Let's keep going down the slate. Knicks came up 539, 540. New York Knicks and into Atlanta to take on the Hawks. Opened Hawks -2. It's now a pick'em game. Total open 230.5. And we're looking at 229.5. So it's dropped by 1 point. Injury report for the Knicks. Looks like they're good to go. Nobody's on it. For Atlanta, only Wesley Matthews. Only Wesley Matthews will miss this game. So my first thoughts here, Rob, and I don't have a lot on this game, is Atlanta. Either Atlanta is still going to suck on the road, or Atlanta is just untrustworthy. Um, I kind of want to see them put it together first before I try to back them again. Especially, in a situation like this, the line going against them. New York Knicks, this group has been together for a little bit now. They competed with the Celtics, who has a really talented roster in that first game. I think that I think they definitely have a chance to win this game. I probably prefer to play in first half just off the thought that I have of them the past few years where they play tough for 24 minutes and then kind of give it up a little bit. But the only way I'm leaning here is the New York Knicks. Can you talk me off?
It's hard to, Ski, but that doesn't mean I would put you on the Hawks either. And the Hawks, something that stuck out to me the other night, Charlotte had 34 assists against the Hawks. And, generally speaking, when we have our the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about the Hawks is a lot of offense and 0 defense. And when you let the other team assist on 79% of their points, you're just not playing a lot of defense. And the Knicks' trouble for the most part is that they don't shoot the ball well, right? They play Boston the other night. They only shoot 37% from the field. They shoot lousy from the free throw line, 14 of 26. That's probably more of a mirage than reality. But if the Knicks don't have to worry about poor shooting, which they might not have to against Atlanta because you get a lot of open looks, then they're the better defensive team. I like Quinn Snyder, but Thibodeau's probably a slightly better coach. And again, I'd like to give the Hawks the benefit of the doubt in a bounce back effort at home because we know Hawks at home has been a thing over the past. But I think when you use the word trustworthy, that's where I'm at. I would rather see what Atlanta let Atlanta create a pattern for us to bet with. And right now that pattern doesn't exist because there's only been one game. If I had to, I think the Knicks, the tougher minded team, and probably get a little bit easier time of it on offense here than they did against Boston.
Greg here reminding us that the Knicks play again versus the Pelicans tomorrow. And that might be another reason to get in and get out just first half because if things are going wrong, they might just throw in a white towel in the second half and save that energy for tomorrow. Um, so appreciate that comment there, Greg. I think I overlooked that a little bit just because I didn't feel like I was going to play this game. Um, Daniel says we all would have thought Trae Young would have worked on his jumper in the offseason. Yeah, it didn't look good. Andrew said Atlanta was shocking from 3 point last game. Got to think that changes, right? I mean, I don't see. I mean, it could very well stay the same. It all depends on how the defense is playing. So I'm not confident enough to back them. I agree with zoned up here. Cannot back the Hawks. Saturated said it's still the off season for Trey. So we'll wait till he gets acclimated to the regular season, and we'll keep it going here to the next game, and that will be 5:41, 5:42. Miami Heat heading into Boston to take on the Celtics. This one opened. I know it. It was some of these opening numbers like this site that I'm using, I think it's doing where it opens everywhere. Like I know I saw the Celtics are like only bet online or like one or two shops at a smaller number, but it opened everywhere at 7.5. That's what I'm trying to say, or that's what the site is saying. We now see them at 8 or 8.5. Total open 218 is down to 217. Injury report here. Nobody on it for the Celtics. For the Heat, looks like Jaime Jaquez is game time decision. Duncan Robinson game time decision, Caleb Martin game time decision, but all three are likely to play. Highsmith out, Josh Richardson out. I feel a few different ways about this game. I want to start off and say for the Heat to blow that lead and only end up beating the Pistons by one doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence about this Miami Heat team. Um, and then when I look at it matchup wise, or when I compare that to what Boston did in that last game, like Boston shot terrible from the field. They allowed what almost 20 offensive rebounds. They allowed the Knicks to get up 20 more shots than them. It was just so many things that the Celtics were doing poor, and their defense, in my opinion, saved them and helped them win the game. So if you can win a game playing like that, like when you are firing on all cylinders, I just feel like this team is going to be scary. And I think this is a game that the Celtics care about. This is the team that ended their season last year, stopped them from going to the NBA Finals. Damn near embarrassed them and swept them. But Celtics did do a little bit of fighting back and took it to game seven. But they remember that. This game has been circled on their calendar. Even Drew Holiday, new addition, he got put out by the Miami Heat last year in the first round. So I think they'll play with a chip on their shoulder. They're the more talented team, matchup wise. Same way I kind of talked about the last game. We're going to see it all season long. Porzingis is going to take the other center out the paint. They have to respect him on the 3 point line, and that's going to leave the paint open. Where probably Drew Holiday does a lot of his, shooting the gaps and cutting and stuff like that, or post up, whatever it may be, and it leaves room for everybody else to operate. Tatum, Jalen Brown, and other guys to get open shots. So a lot of ways for Boston to have success offensively here. Even if Miami goes zone, Boston is so good shooting the ball, they can shoot them out of it. And just not a whole like Miami has a couple of good defenders compared to what I was saying about the Knicks versus Boston last time. But if you take Bam out the key, I mean it's just with Jimmy Butler really that you trusting out there in the starting lineup, and everybody else can be picked on. So I like the Celtics to get a little bit of revenge here. Miami Heat also play again tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they do. So another one of those games where if Boston's giving them a beatdown, Miami Heat throws in the towel, let's go the rope, and prepares for their game for tomorrow. So I will be looking at the Celtics here. I'd also still like, Porzingis 3-point prop at 1.5. Probably be juiced at 1.5. Probably be nice plus money at 2.5. I think until they start to even raise it or put it more towards like minus 110 for the 2.5. I think it's worth a shot with Porzingis. So that's my thoughts on Celtics versus Heat. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Well, I'll be quick because I didn't play at Skee because I think everything you said rings true, and I think I could circle around and go the opposite way, and it would still ring true. I think the game means a lot to Miami as well. I don't know that the second half meant a lot to Miami, and I thought because Detroit is loaded with those young guys with fresh legs, that would be a problem against an older team, and it wound up being a problem in the second half. Detroit caught them. Miami's probably a better first half team right now when you just look at what their front nine, the nine in their rotation is comprised of. Tyler Hero got off 24 shots the other night, kind of coming back. He didn't play a lot in the playoffs last year, didn't play at the end of the season, so maybe he's going to work himself into a groove here. Didn't shoot it particularly well. The rebounding stuff, when you drag Adebayo away, I know Butler and Kevin Love both had big rebound games the other night. I think Miami kind of saved themselves second half. The first half came too easy, plus 11, kind of figured like they could coast. They didn't coast. I think they'll be ready here. Question for me is, if Boston has a lead at halftime of any significant amount, they probably extend in the second half. I'm not a big fan of Miami and these 35-year-old guys in the second half. So I don't know how to project the first half here. If I was going to bet Miami, it would be first half. Not so sure I can get there. Also not so sure I could lay 8.5 with Boston right off the jump. It's probably a better in-game bet for me. Total seems to be in a good place. I looked at that, Skee. I thought maybe, 217 is doable here for a couple of the reasons that you mentioned. Boston didn't shoot it well. If they do, 217 should be pretty easy to get over. Maybe throughout the day, I'll get there with that. But as far as side goes, I just don't have a play.
I just think, my thought process on this one specific game is because Miami plays tomorrow, the longer the game goes on, the more advantage it is for the Celtics. Because I feel like Miami eases their foot off the gas as the game goes on. But I think in general this year, Boston first quarter is going to be profitable. It looks like if they play like last game, Porzingis is going to play majority of those minutes in the first quarter, and we really want the starters. There's some other guys out there I really don't enjoy seeing on the court for my money. So I think Boston first quarter is going to be a look all season long, but I didn't play it in this game for the reason I said. Let's see. Rick White says, "What is Boston's team total?" I think I might bet that. Boston team total is 112.5. I can see Boston winning a low scoring game, winning with their defense. I can see them putting up a lot of points as well. So I don't feel as comfortable with the team total. Thoughts from you, Rob?
Yeah, 112.5 to me seems doable, especially if, like you say, they shoot better this game than they did last game. Against the Knicks, they got to where they got to without great shooting, without a lot of shot attempts. So maybe it's worth it. Again, I don't have a really good feel on this game either way. So, but I would give that a look. I mean, I think it's worth consideration for sure.
And what Saturated is saying here is absolutely correct. It's a little bit of a different Boston team here right now, but Boston team total, anything under 120 was you run to the window when they were at home. So I agree with that. Bill is also saying 112 is low for the C. So we'll see how they take advantage, or if they take advantage of Miami in that situation tonight. Let's keep going down the list. We've been on here for quite a bit, and we still have a little ways to go, Rob. So next game up, 5:43, 5:44, Toronto at Chicago. This game opened Chicago -2. We still see twos as a consensus. A couple of 2.5s out there. Total open 217, and consensus is still 217. Injury report for Chicago, nobody is on there. For the Raptors, Koloko is out. So this game, I'm just gonna go off of I feel like the Bulls got embarrassed in that first game. They lost at home, got smacked up by the OKC Thunder. And you hear guys like DeRozan talking about it. It says like pretty much not a direct quote, but pretty much what he was saying is, they disrespected them. It was a disrespect to their fans for them to play that way, and you can expect for them to bring 100% more energy and effort in this game. So that's something I like to hear, especially in the beginning of the season where we kind of question a little bit of motivation. So I would only look towards the Bulls to back up what they're talking about at the house, minus the 2 points. Would you look the other way or roll with me, Rob?
Well, off of that quote, I would say that I would look under Skee because I think Toronto is an under team this year. Had the under in the Minnesota game the other night against Toronto. That game only totaled 191. In the end, it was 97-94. And I know Minnesota's a far better defensive team than Chicago is. But if you get quotes like that out of DeMar DeRozan feeling embarrassed, thinking that they embarrassed their fans, then that's going to show up in aggression and on the defensive side of the ball. So I would probably look under 217. Don't have a play on the game, but just off of that quote, it would lead me to playing it under because I think Toronto's an under team to begin with.
And last season they had a pretty good defense, if I'm not mistaken. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're top. Maybe I don't go that far. They were a pretty solid defense, I want to say though. So if they are locked in, I do think they bring it on that end. I will lean with you towards the under, but I like Chicago more in this game. Anything else you want to add on that one before we keep it going?
Now we can push on.
All right. Some of these games will like more than the others. Some of them will have a little bit more to say. Some of them not so much. So a lot more to talk about on the slate. Let's keep it going. 5:45, 5:46. Houston Rockets heading into San Antonio to take on the Wimbenyamas. This game opened -1.5 for San Antonio. We now see -3. Total open 228.5, as low as 224.5 now. So a lot of people liking the under in this game. Devontae Graham remains out for the Spurs. Eason, Landale, Oladipo out for the Rockets. I will be honest and say I expect this Rockets coach to, get these guys to buy in and play a little bit better for Houston over the course of the season. But I still don't feel comfortable in this one, backing them. At the same time, after getting that first game out the way for Wembanyama, nerves, jitters, all that stuff, I think they start to settle. He settles down, and he'll play even better. It's just I don't think the Spurs are at that point, or they haven't shown me they're at that point where I want to lay with them. So, gun to my head in a scenario like this, I would lean towards taking the points just for that reason. But more than that, I mean, are these two teams that are going to be playing a whole lot of defense? I know the is it Udoka? Yeah, Udoka. He's probably going to get the Rockets to play a little bit more defense, but I see these two teams more of up and down track meet kind of play. Would you buck the market and go over, or how are you looking at this one, Rob? Battle in Texas.
Yeah, I would love to buck the market and play over here, Ski, but I get slowed down by Houston, not necessarily San Antonio. What I saw out of San Antonio the other night is much the same. Really good offensive team, even better now with Wembanyama out there. But they played an offensive-minded team in Dallas, and that game totaled a lot of points, went over the 231 rather easily. You take a look at some of the changes made to this Houston roster. It's almost like Ime Udoka went out there and just said, give me some slow veterans and guys who want to play defense. Dylan Brooks, really all defense. Fred VanVleet, slow and methodical at the point. Reggie Bullock, known for defense. The look at the Houston rotation doesn't look anything like what it looked like last year. I mean, certainly there's players still there on that roster, but it looks like he's trying to change the entire complexion of this team. Can that happen quickly on the defensive end? It doesn't look that way because Orlando scored 116 against them. So I don't know if they're any better defensively right out of the shoot. It's offensively where, I mean, that lineup just doesn't inspire me to go betting overs whatsoever. Now, what could happen is San Antonio's not a good defensive team, and Houston could make shots tonight. But I'd rather have guys, if I'm playing over with Houston, I'd rather have Kevin Porter Jr. back and some other guys that were, just wanting to light it up. I want to get there, Skee. I just can't because it looks like this guy's trying to change the entire thing, and offense may take time. They lost by 30 points the other night to Orlando, only scored 86. And for me to play over, that's a bit of a problem.
That is a good point. And that's why I'm not playing this game. Daniel's question, he says, Skee, was there anything you liked from what you saw Houston game one? I must have been focused on a lot more other games. They must have played in the early window or something. And I probably had I had 3 games going in the early window that had money on that I was watching. So I don't think I paid too much attention to what Houston was doing in game one. So I have to watch and see what they look like a little bit more tonight. I think that's enough for that game. Let's keep going. Next up, we have 547, 548. Brooklyn Nets versus the Dallas Mavericks. Game opened Mavs -5.5. We see them as -6 right now. Total open 225. And it's up 6 points to 231. Injury report. And let me actually hit the refresh here because it's been almost an hour since we've been on here. Some things could change. Cam Johnson, game time decision. Claxton will be out. Whitehead out. Damn, I might have to run to the window. I didn't bet this game, but the first thing that jumped off the page to me, same bet that we made in game one. I mean, there's no Claxton out there even right now. They're gonna need some help grabbing those boards. Ben Simmons over his rebounds plus assists. We bet it over 13.5 last game. They've raised it to 14.5. I did just check that. I think that's the play we have to make again. Mavericks, they're a smaller team anyway, and somebody's got to grab these boards for Brooklyn. I want to say he had 9 and 8 as far as assists and rebounds last game for Simmons. So I think this is very doable. I would prefer that more than anything on the side. Do you agree with that? And how are you looking at either the side or total?
Oh, I think the early money on the total was absolutely correct, Skee. And I still think there's room. 231 to me, and without Claxton, just seems like the Nets. We saw it the other night, right? Cam Thomas runs out there and gets it. They got a lot of guys that can get theirs on Brooklyn, and Dallas has the same thing. Kyrie against Brooklyn tonight probably wants to score 50 against that team. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a huge night if you're looking at player props toward Kyrie's direction. Luka looked pretty good the other night for a guy who was questionable on the injury report. They've got a lot of offensive weapons. Derek Lively, I mentioned him earlier. The kid from Duke looked really, really good as far as playing center, a position that Dallas has not really had a competent guy in for a while now. So I think 231 is still an overplay. I think until further notice, you just play Mavericks games over. And the fact that the Nets are loaded here tonight with a smallish, scoring, offensive-minded type team, I just don't know how it doesn't make over 231. So even though it's moved 6 points, I still think you're good. You were obviously way better at the opening number, but shoot, Dallas, San Antonio the other night made it rather easily, and I think this one will make it pretty easily as well.
I agree with you on the total. Comment here, Daniel saying, don't we see Kyrie going off this game against his former team? We could absolutely see that. I don't think he necessarily, has any animosity towards them really, but I could be wrong. He's capable any night to go off anyway, so that could be a good look there, especially if we're liking an over game. David says Cam Thomas over points, Lively over rebounds looks really good. Can't talk you off either one of those. Cam is a bucket. The real DJ says Rangers 1.5, Mavs money line, and over 231. Bill is agreeing on that lively rebounds. Nick is saying it's 13 and a half plus 100 on DraftKings. Let me guys know if you guys could help me out. Can't really do the line shopping for the props while I'm on this show, but if it's 13 and a half, I would much rather get that than to get the 14 and a half that I'm looking at Bet Online. So I will wait and see if you guys can help me out a little bit. See a couple more comments. Derek says Nets +6 is tough to pass up. Mavs look dicey. I don't see this Mavs team getting a whole lot of stops. So not a team that I really want to lay with. Same as I was talking about another team earlier. Would you agree with that, Rob? Not a whole lot of defense coming from this Mavericks team.
Yeah, Derek Lively will provide some in the pivot this year more than they've had in the past, but it's only one game, right? I think that happens later on. They didn't show a lot of defensive capability the other night. Like I said, they're an over bet until we see something different out of them.
Fair enough. I guess I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna do this in a little bit. I don't want the number to get away from me, but I don't have DraftKings here. I gotta try to hit somebody else up to bet it for me. But let's keep going here.
We got to pull the plug on this show so you can get down on a good number.
Man, you see me over here looking around trying to make it work. We'll make it happen. Next game up, we'll go 549, 550. We're looking at the Clippers and Utah. This game opened -4 for the Clippers. Some 4.5s out there. I think that's the consensus number now. Total open 230, and it's as low as 227. Injury report. Nobody on there for Utah. Bones Highland is game time decision. Boston out. Terrence Mann out. Primo out. So here's what I'll do, Rob. While I'm trying to find that number, I'm going to kick this one to you first. How do you feel about Clippers and Jazz?
Well, my first look was toward over Skee in this one. I know Utah has tried to put some kind of emphasis on the defensive side of the ball, but I still think they are what they are, which is a better, especially at home, better suited to offense. Numbers come down from 230 to 227 and a half. I see a 227 looking at us right now at circa. That's the low point. High point, again, is 228 here. But I don't know that they bring a lot of defense to the table. I think the game will be played at a little bit of pace here from the Utah side. We remember them at home from last year. The way they played the game was pretty much up and down, and with a bunch of competent guys who can score. It's kind of a mix mash of talent, but still a team that's capable of scoring. So I would probably look that way. Again, I don't want to push anybody to the window because I didn't play it. It's just kind of a slight lean there that the Clippers would get caught up in this on the road. And the Clippers probably can score against this defense rather easily. So to me, the direction of the total move was wrong. I would probably look at over 4.5-point favorites. I don't want to trust the Clippers on the road this early in the season. Saturated is asking about Walker Kessler, and that's a guy I like. I think anytime his rebound total is reasonable, you want to play him over in that capacity. So maybe that's a good way to go. Greg, healthy and motivated to play good ball. That might be the second play today. And again, I couldn't talk anybody off of that. I'm looking more at total in this game than I am at side. And if I were to play, I'd probably play over.
Can't talk you off. UCapper agrees with the over. He says Clippers struggled defensively on the road, and they're pretty much the same team. Guys in the chat, yes, liking Kessler, thinking maybe Laurie props, or Desaturated did. And guys asking about Zubac. I see Philly said Clippers center rebounds over. And Rick Wright comes here and says Zubac double plus 250. Zubac over 8.5 rebounds at even money. Bill McDonald agreeing. Zubac double. I think both centers or either center could be worth a play in this matchup. Will I be on it? No, but I do not want to talk anybody off. And I try my best not to do too many Clippers sides unless I really feel like it's a good spot for the Clippers, just because of how biased I am. So I will leave that game alone. And appreciate you, Biker Boy. It says the GOAT duo. Appreciate you tapping in. If you guys like the show, if we're helping you out any, please hit the like button. As that does help us out quite a bit. Real DJ says Laurie over 22 and a half points. Let's keep going. We have two more games left in the NBA, and then we'll even see if we see anything we like for NFL really quick. Next game, 551. 552. Magic heading into Portland to take on the Blazers. Open Magic -2.5. We see twos pretty much out there across the board. Total open 224, and it's as low as 223. Injury report for this team: Harris out for the Magic. Anthony Simons game time decision, but likely to play for the Blazers. Wainwright out. So the Magic, as I've stated previously, the past like 3 seasons, I don't really bet a whole lot of their games. I just don't have the greatest feel for this team. I like to think when I look at this Blazers roster that they're competent enough to compete. Like they got a lot of pieces who I think are solid, who are good, and I just don't view Orlando as a team that I would want to lay points with too many times. So just strictly off of that, I lean towards Portland plus the points. But again, a game I will not be involved in. It's a game you can get yourself to the window with, Rob.
Well, I like Orlando's frontline matchup over Portland's, and Simons goes. I like Portland's backcourt matchup over Orlando's. I like them both because they're both young teams, but I think the stability factor lies with Orlando. It's a group that's mostly been together now in their second year, and I think we saw the ascension start last year, second half of the season, where Portland still kind of trying to find their way. A lot of new names in there, like you mentioned, including Malcolm Brogdon as a backup point guard on this team right now. So maybe better things ahead for Portland. But the one thing I noticed, Skee, is they gave up a lot of points the other night and they scored late. They really didn't give up. So if I combine that, and it's only one game, small sample size, but you start to think maybe Portland's a team that's going to give you, because they're young, because they're all fighting for positions here. Maybe they're going to give you the full 48 each and every night, especially at home here. They played in the Clippers home opener the other night. And Orlando, I think that front line is really, really good. Banchero, Wagner, those guys at forward are both good scorers, both good rebounders. Wendell Carter Jr. is a good defensive presence. I might look toward over in this game, Portland, Orlando, just because 116 I talked about earlier is what Orlando put up against Houston the other night. Another team that's kind of in the same mode right now that Portland's in, a team looking to get the pieces together. So maybe Orlando could take advantage. It's a long road trip all the way to the West, but first game of a road trip, generally, at least in my handicapping, is one that I think they put a lot of enthusiasm into, the visitors. So I'd probably take a small lean toward over here, which currently sits at 223.
All right, I can't talk you off of that one, and I am locking in as we speak. Got the confirmation right there. It's locked in.
There you go.
Ben Simmons over 13 and a half. I was able to get only -115. So I will take it. And for my Wager Talk people, it'll be up there as soon as I get a free moment. Next game, last game for NBA. We'll go 553, 554, Golden State at Sacramento. This one opened Sac -2.5. We now see them as a 3-point favorite pretty much everywhere. Total open 240.5, and surprisingly down a little bit, as low as 237.5 at DraftKings. Injury report for this game for the Warriors: they will be without Draymond Green. For Sacramento, looks like they'll be without Trey Lyles and Slauson. So, all those first games are the first games of the season. Like Sacramento was definitely one of the most impressive. I looked at that line and I couldn't understand for the life of me why it was 1.5. I just was like, maybe it's a trap or something. But they picked up right where they left off last year. Like Sacramento looks like they even want to expand on what they did last year. They're trying to keep projecting upwards. So I have a lot of confidence in this team. as of right now, and this is a game that means quite a bit to them, right? This is a team that ended their season last year in Game 7. Curry dropped 50 points on. It took 50 points for him to beat them. Um, I think Sacramento is more than capable, or has. I think they have the more talented starting five, really, right now. Um, and I think they're the better offensive team, even if you don't think they have the better starting five. Maybe I went a little too far there. I think they got the better offensive team. I'll say that they got more, how do I say, cohesion, or maybe that's not the right word, just like consistency with the roster. So I trust them a lot right now. And also, I'm blanking out. Maybe I need to eat. It's lunchtime, Rob. Coach for the Kings. He used to
Mike
be over
Brown.
there with Mike Brown. He used to be over there with the Warriors. I know he wants this game too. So I just think this is a really important game for the Sacramento Kings, a revenge spot for the team who ended your season. I'll take that, 9 times out of 10 and live with the results. So I'll be taking the Kings, not going to overthink, why are they minus this, minus that. Give me the Kings -3 to get the job done here today. Do you feel the same way as I do?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I played it. I think that the line is 3 based on perception with Golden State right now. I think Sacramento's power rating, where odds makers are concerned, obviously where bettors like myself are concerned, will raise throughout the year. I jacked them up a little bit here. Um, but I don't, I rarely, very rarely ski bet games on one reason and one reason only, but I went right to the rack immediately just based off of what you talked about, the motivation. I think Sacramento wants this even more than Boston wants that Miami game tonight. Like, I could make a case that Miami was looking ahead to Boston. I don't know that Golden State's looking ahead to Sacramento. Golden State still got the big brother, little brother in their head, and Sacramento doesn't want to be little brother anymore. So at 3 points, I'm in. You've got a team that can get to 125 in most instances. So when you're trying to cover a little number like this, all you need is a little bit of defense. I'm with you. Played Sacramento, like Sacramento, so that's where we'll go.
Glad we're in agreement. Rick White also bringing up the point of how terrible Golden State was on the road
Yeah,
last year. We'll
remember
see if
that.
they can turn that around. And also, Golden State without Draymond Green, I don't like to make that bet a whole lot of the time. So it's gonna be the Kings for me. Not overthinking it, and it is in my pocket. There was something else I wanted to bring up here, or maybe it was a comment I saw, but I might have lost it by now. Let's see if I can scroll and find it real quick. They're asking about the Warriors third quarter. People liking maybe Sacramento early. Do you think Golden State third?
I don't know if I would like it here, only because whatever the halftime score is, I think Mike Brown's going to go into that locker room and tell those guys to pour it on. So, I mean, it's just one of those games, Ski, where third quarter Golden State is a thing, but I don't know that I would trust it in this particular situation.
All right, fair enough. That is the NBA slate. So, damn, bro, we doing a whole lot. I feel like we haven't done a show like this in a while. This is like a packed slate, everything. We've already been
Yeah.
on for an hour and 8 minutes. So,
And it's hard too, because I got to do college football show for Wager Talk in 18 minutes. So we got to do a little something here.
all right, we'll be very quick. I don't have a whole lot of strong opinions either. This is honestly football's on the back burner for me. You guys know I'm basketball first. I just want to glance and see, maybe what stands out to me, what I like. But I'm gonna give it to you first, just because I feel like you've done a little bit more work. I'll ask you this question though. I'll start off with this: Chargers minus 9.5, 8.5. Oh hell no! I don't care how sorry the other team is. I'm not laying over a touchdown with the Chargers. There's absolutely no way. So can we back the Bears in that game? Any chance we can back the Bears Sunday Night Football?
Do we even have to analyze this one, Ski? I mean, hey, listen, the Bears, they break out the Division III quarterback last week, right? And he looked better than Justin Fields. Did what you're supposed to do. Wasn't, didn't look like Joe Montana, but he did the game managing thing very, very well for the Bears last week. So, where Chargers are concerned, you don't want to lay the points. Looking at the dog, now they're on the road. Last week's game was at home, and now there's a little bit of film on the kid at quarterback. So I'm not so sure either way. Chargers, tough game against Kansas City last week, but it got away from them. And they got to start getting a couple of wins here, Skee. Doesn't mean they have to win by 8.5, but they do have to start getting a couple of wins. I would say this. If you're in the habit of playing teasers, 6-point teasers, and you see the Chargers at -8.5, you definitely tease them down to 2.5 and play them to win this game by a field goal. I do believe that. So that's probably the best look I would have in this game. Find somebody to pair them up with in a 6-point teaser and chop it down to under a field goal. And I think you'll be okay with the Chargers at home.
Will one of those people be maybe the Detroit Lions against the Raiders on Monday Night Football? They're an 8-point favorite. They're at home, off of a loss, right? Do you think that they can get back on track in that game?
Yeah, and they're not just off of a loss, Ski. They're off of an ass beating. I mean, they got taken to the woodshed last week. So certainly Dan Campbell, the head coach, there'll be some motivational talks for that team. There'll be some redemption. It's a solo game, right? A standout alone game Monday night. The whole nation watches this game. So if there's a chance for Detroit to redeem themselves, it's there. You're not one of 6 10 a.m. Pacific time games. Everybody's watching your game. So yeah, I could totally see that. A Chargers Lions teaser would make a lot of sense to me Sunday night, Monday night.
All right. I like hearing that. I might get involved in that actually. Atlanta, we've seen a flip of favorites. Tennessee -1 to Atlanta -2.5. Is that because Tennessee has said that they're selling, they're trying to trade a couple of their guys that look like they're quitting on the season? Because Atlanta hasn't been very good on the road. Like, what do you think about this matchup? Should they be laying 2.5 on the road?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback situation, right? Tennessee's talking about maybe Malik Willis. Nobody really knows who's going to start this game at quarterback for Tennessee. But does it matter, Skee? Is it worth 3.5 points? I mean, if you don't have Tannehill, who really cares? Honestly, Tennessee's based on run game and defense. And I kind of like them in these situations and their head coach, Mike Vrabel, in these types of situations. It's a defensive-minded game. Thus, the total all the way down to 35. Now you can't really play under anymore. 39, it was playable. But I do think the Titans at home would be live in this game. Desmond Ridder and that passing offense for Atlanta is not very good. They rely on running the football for the most part. And Tennessee defensively can still stand up to a lot of teams. So I don't really understand. And again, we know just from doing a lot of NBA shows together, how these sports work when there's injury-related situations, especially at quarterback. People go overboard betting the other side. Well, I think if you're betting Atlanta because you don't expect Tannehill to play for Tennessee, that's kind of a lame reason to be betting Atlanta. I could be wrong, but I would prefer Tennessee.
Fair enough. I don't really like too much this week in NFL. Only other question I have is New England back on track? Is everybody gonna, rally together now after that last game, or are we still looking, to fade New England?
I'm not sure they're back on track, Skee. I think they took advantage of a Buffalo defense that had a lot of injuries last week. One key guy at every single level of the defense, whether it was Ed Oliver, whether it was Milano, whether it was Tre'Davious White in the secondary. And I think we talked about it yesterday, how I played Buffalo, New England over the 40.5, and it got there because New England, who hadn't scored, did score against a defense that was banged up a little bit. We saw Tampa Bay get to 18 against Buffalo yesterday, and Tampa Bay hadn't really scored much either. So I don't know if they're back. I think the Tyreek Hill injury has something to do with it, but I read a quote from Tyreek Hill last night. He said, "Don't worry about me. I'm good to go. I'm going to play," despite the head coach, Mike McDaniel, saying somewhere down the road we'll get Tyreek back. Tyreek Hill says he's playing Sunday. If he plays, Miami's just too fast, too good. I think they're off a difficult game last week, so they're looking to respond here. It's a lot of points, but Miami can pile up a lot of points real fast, so I don't want to be too quick to bet against them.
Let me ask you, Rob. We'll wrap up here because, like I said, I don't feel strong about this week. Maybe I'll have a stronger feeling next week. But is there anything we didn't talk about in the NFL that you maybe wanted to mention?
Uh, I kind of think that this Kansas City offense is going to get on track, but I kind of think we've lost the number at this point. They got to 34 last week against the Chargers, which was kind of an indicator that they're ready to break out on a weekly basis, which they haven't. And Denver's defense is so pathetic. That opener of 44.5 was something we could take advantage of. It's sitting at 47 now, which is a key number, but I could still see something like 31-17 happening here and still getting us over. So I'm not as high on it as I was earlier in the week, Skee, but I still think Kansas City, and maybe we play Kansas City team total here. I didn't even look to that. I'll look real fast here before we start to shut her down. They're at 27.5.
Yeah.
Need 28 to get there. And I think against this Denver defense, that's highly possible. So either way, if you want to look full game, I wouldn't, be mad at that. And I'm certainly not mad at playing Kansas City over 27.5 points.
All right, good stuff, Rob. I know you got to get going to the college football show, and I need some lunch. So it's about that time where we move over and look around the card, see if there's one thing that we like a little bit more than the rest. And, is there anything you would like to promote as well?
Real quick, I will promote, if you want to stay and continue watching a little of this weekend's content, in about 10 minutes, Wager Talks College Football Today show will be on, or whatever they're calling it now. I think it's called College Football Today. I'm not positive. But I'll be part of that panel in the next 10 minutes. We'll discuss a few games over there. For the weekend, college football plays. Got a fairly decent card here, Skee. I like what's up there. There's a couple of 4% best bets already available. I think I'm going to add 2 more to that for college football, so certainly join in there. You can find all my work at wagertalk.com on my homepage. And for best bet for the show, I talked about 2 that I really like, and I think you like one as much as I do, so I'll save that for you. And I'll say that Brooklyn, Dallas over 231 is a way I'll go for the show. To me, Dallas is just an over team. Tonight's matchup just breeds points. When we're just looking at the players that are going to be on the floor and the capabilities to score. So over 231, it was the same number against San Antonio the other night when Dallas played them. It got over easily. I think this one does too.
All right, good stuff on that one, Rob. And I'm not going to go where you think I'm going to go.
Okay.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. All this week, every single prop we've given for best bets has been a winner. Mark on some wood right there. And we'll go right back to the prop market. But for my promo, sorry, you see it right there at the bottom. If you guys want to be involved with the early bird special for my NBA, you can get $200 off. Use coupon code EBNBA, early bird NBA. And I do have a 5% best bet up and available at wagertalk.com. Best bet for the show. We talked it out here. We cashed on it one time already. Like Ben Simmons, over 13.5 rebounds plus assists. I would still take it at 14.5. Like I said, last time he cleared that every time in the preseason, not even playing like more than 23 minutes, or he only played more than 23 minutes once. In this last game, I want to say he got like closer to 17. So 14.5 or 13.5, I would play either one. I just was able to line shop and get myself a 13.5. So I would do that every single time. The loss of Claxton, Johnson might not even be out there. Somebody has to grab these rebounds. Why is it not Ben Simmons? So that's the best bet for the show. Like I always say, you guys in the chat room are the best. We appreciate everything you guys bring to the table. A lot of great insight, and you guys are entertaining as well. We have a good time. So best of luck if you guys tell. Good luck on all of your action. I will be back next week. If you make sure you guys subscribe to the channel too. I will have either a System Saturday and or a System Sunday video. If you were around last year, you guys remember that. We'll try to keep taking these tickets to the window. So have a good weekend. We'll catch you guys next week.